How do you practice something? How do you practice getting good at something deliberately? My name is Mario Leone, and welcome to the Voices of Victory channel. This is the Deliberate Practice Workshop. We're going to start off with all of the steps to practice a new skill that you want to work on. This is going to help you from start to finish. I'm going to do my best to help you avoid the slippery slopes along the way. So let's start off with the very first one. We're going to deal with the very first one. Okay. And this is literally step one. Decide one skill. Pick that one skill you want to work on. Decide it. Decide the one skill you want to improve. It could be podcasting, writing, public speaking, sales, leadership, listening, fitness, meditation, parenting, time management, whatever the case may be. Decide one skill. And we want to start from there. Decide. We're going to use podcasting for this example in this particular episode here. Okay. So now let's go ahead and move to the next step here, which is step 2 is define expert performance. And now this is where people lose their way. They lose their way here because we ask the question, what does excellent performance look like in this skill? If we use podcasting, we'll look at 50 different podcasters and be like, I don't know which one to choose. That's what basically a person will freeze. Their nervous system will freeze and say, I don't know, there's so many out there. But we're not looking at the podcaster. We are looking at the expert performance, the skills that it takes. And that's where people lose their way. We fall into the hype and we say, I want to be like Joe Rogan. I want to be like this person. I want to be like that person. But we have to look at expert performance. What does it look like as a skill? What does it look like in this skill? So we're going to list, this is where you get to separate the 50 podcasters from each other, is you're going to list the very specific behaviors an expert would demonstrate. So public speaking, speaking slowly, composure, all of these different things. You can even look at the podcast length, how long their length of time is. You can do that. But that length is an attribute of the podcast. We are looking for the expert performance, how they're performing. And we want to list those specific behaviors. Tone, spacing of the words, timing, rapid speech, really quick speech, or slowing down, concentrating on delivery. We want to list those specific behaviors that an expert would demonstrate. We focus on observable, solid actions, not vague qualities, not falling into the trap of who's the best, how many are there, because each podcaster has a list of performance skills. Each one of them do. They all do in their own way, in their own right. You're going to develop your own style. So we want to be concrete. We don't want to look at the 50 different people and get confused that are out there. We want to define clearly on paper, in your phone, whatever the case would be, list the specific behaviors an expert would actually demonstrate. Got it? Step 3, now that you understand what those specific behaviors are and you have them listed, this is where we have to be brutally honest with ourselves. If you lie to yourself at this point, you'll fall into the trap of just emulating other people and not being honest with yourself. Perform a knowledge area analysis. So where are you struggling right now? So when you're dealing with podcasting, you have to identify the one weakness. Okay. Are you speaking too fast? Are you speaking too slow? Are you pausing? We have to look at public speaking and those particular areas. So we have to identify that specific weakness, that specific area. I like to call it the area of opportunity. So write one weakness per note. So you might have a weak opening. So in other words, when you open the podcast, you might have a weak opening with it. And there's always room for improvement. I get it. But this is practice, not perfection. This is progress, not perfection. The whole point I'm taking you through this series is to focus on progress. So is there rambling? Is there poor pacing? Is there too much repetition in one area where you repeat yourself over and over again? Is there a weak transition? These are the kinds of things to think about. Let's go on to the next one. The next step of the practice is prioritize that weakness, that area of opportunity. If you don't like the word weakness because it hurts your ego, that's fine. Just call it area of opportunity. Sort your weaknesses or areas of opportunity into high impact, medium impact, low impact. If your opening is weak, does that have a big impact on the show? And the answer is yes, so you would check that off. If you're in the middle and you're repeating yourself, what's the impact on that? What's the medium impact on that? So identify which weakness would create the biggest improvement if fixed. So we're not focusing, don't zoom in on what's wrong. Zoom in on where we can create the biggest improvement. That is what is crucial. Remember, this is practice. This is progress. This is not perfection. Let's understand that. Step 5. Now that you understand where you need work, design a practice drill. When you design this practice drill, you're going to do like the smallest version of it. This is where fear kicks in because people have to come out of their comfort zone. So you're not going to come out of your comfort zone. You're just going to come to the edge, just ever so slightly. It's going to be that gray line between fear and comfort, where you're comfortable enough to do it, but enough to feel a little bit of fear. Okay. So we're going to create a drill that targets the chosen weakness. So we have to decide. We're not all over the map with 50 things. We have to decide. We'll decide the opening of the podcast. That will be the example. So we create a drill that targets the chosen weakness directly. Okay. Rambling, you can explain a topic for 60 seconds. A weak hook, you can write 20 hooks that open up the whole entire show. Poor storytelling, you can tell the same story in 30, 60, and 120 seconds. So you want to design a practice drill. You want to come to the edge of your comfort zone just a little bit and practice this repetitively. And you're just going to do what Will Smith says, beat on your craft. Like this is your craft, and if podcasting is a craft, you're going to beat on it. You're going to it's a punching bag, and you're going to keep hitting at it over and over again until that craft is really solid. And that's where it gets to be fun. So design a practice drill and make sure we keep it short, sweet, 60 seconds, 20 seconds, and record it and play it back. Record it, play it back, record it, play, and keep doing that. This is the phase where you get to design the practice drill and beat on your craft over and over again. Now, this is also going to be an area where you need to work on it. So this is identifying feedback sources. So we have to decide how improvement is going to be measured. So possible sources. Well, you can review yourself. You can review yourself, but be compassionate. Stay away from being over judgmental. Oh, it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. Like people fall into that inner critic. Your mind is going to wander, which is creativity, and you're going to have the ability to execute tasks, but it's your inner critic and judge in the middle that will stop you from finishing your tasks. So we have to identify feedback sources. Decide how improvement is going to be measured. Be very careful of the measurements that you choose that decides the quality. Very important. A lot of people use poor metrics. They use difficult metrics. They'll grab all these perfectionistic metrics of other people, and they don't realize that their journey is not your journey is not their journey. So self-review, be compassionate with yourself. That means don't beat yourself up, don't curse yourself out. If you catch yourself saying, oh, you suck, use the word ouch. Ouch or hurt. Hurt. You remind yourself, I'm hurt. I hurt myself. Ouch, I hurt myself. And you catch yourself and you go right back to being compassionate and say, I'm learning. I'm in the process of. You want to use the phrase, I'm in the process of, as your self-talk. So review yourself, get a peer review, but get it from people that actually aren't going to be hypercritical, but are going to be realistic. They're going to be using a metric in a realistic fashion. You can get audience feedback as well. Be careful of that because you're going to get people that love it. You're going to get people that hate it. But if you're not going towards being disliked to some degree, you're not moving in the direction that's making enough waves and enough changes out in the world. Keep that in mind. You can get some feedback. You can get a podcast coach. You can look at the metrics. Look at the actual data. Look at the actual metrics. Like that is really valuable. Don't compare yourself to the rest of the world. Your journey is not their journey. Their journey is not yours. Just understand that. Step 7, keep a practice log. Just like James T. Kirk of Star Trek had a star log. You're going to keep a practice log. You're going to record each practice session. You're going to put the date, the drill you did, what the result was. Again, avoid being hypercritical, overcritical. Track the date, the drill, the result. Put an observation, not a harsh judgment. Observe. Learn to evaluate in a balanced and fair way, not I suck or beat yourself down. And then write down what was the adjustment you did. Very important. That's it. So you get a little notebook, keep the practice log there. Date, drill, result, the observation, evaluation you had, and the adjustments that you can make. Step 8, create an adjustment board. An adjustment board would be outside of the log that you created, and it's just a place to make your adjustments. But it gets to be a very exciting place because you're going to come up with all kinds of ideas to adjust yourself. So the adjustment board is after you review the feedback, you just ask yourself, what should I keep doing? What should I stop doing? What should I try next? These 3 questions, awesome. And your adjustment board is going to get more and more exciting as you list things. You're going to start getting ideas of how to improve and what you can do to improve, and you're going to put them on your adjustment board. That's it. And keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on your log and your adjustment board regularly. Now, right below your adjustment board, right below that, you're going to build an evidence board. This is where your identity and confidence get stronger. This is the most important step out of all the steps, because if your confidence is not improving, if your identity is not improving, then you're missing the evidence. Now, why do most people fail in the evidence step? Why do they fail at this step? Because their journey is not the journey of someone else. They compare themselves to the rest of the world and say, well, I'm not Joe Rogan, therefore I suck. I'm not this person, therefore I suck. And you have to build an evidence board. Okay, when you get a podcast episode and it's got tons of feedback on that, you need to analyze that feedback. You need to look at that and write down success on this podcast because the numbers were high on it. And write that down as evidence. You need proof of improvement because what that does is it reinforces your confidence, which reinforces your identity. So when you're becoming a podcaster, you have an identity. And you have to be able to improve that. So you could say that action gives you evidence, but evidence reinforces your identity. So important. So collect proof of your improvement. You're going to record 10 episodes. You practice 30 days. You improved retention. The retention went up. You need to put that on your evidence board. Evidence of We're not judging ourselves. We're not falling into the comparison trap of how you need to compare yourself to the rest of the world. Their journey is not your journey. Your journey is not their journey. You will hear me say that on this show until I'm dead and buried. That is the fact. You're going to receive positive feedback. You're also going to receive negative feedback. You're going to learn to be neutral with both. Don't be so, I have to lean towards positive and stay away from negative. Like, we get so attached to one or the other. Feedback is feedback. The feedback is there for analysis and learning. That's it. If the feedback has value, great. You want to be like the softball catcher. Someone throws a softball, I catch it. That softball represents the feedback. I analyze the feedback. Is there anything valuable here? Yes or no? No, it's a ton of negative comments, and the negative comments don't hold any value. Well, they're just feedback that's useless. There's useful feedback, and there's useless feedback. And you can look at the different types of feedback out there. There are 4 quadrants for feedback, which I will show you really quick. But you're going to collect the improvement of your episodes. And if you received a positive tone, awesome. If you hit a performance milestone, awesome. Be able to do that. This is where it's going to help you in terms of dealing with feedback. You're going to get feedback from people, especially with a podcast. I'm going to remove this so you can actually see it. So the last step we were on was build the evidence board, right? But the problem is there we go. The problem is when people are building evidence, they are comparing everybody else all the time. So when you are constantly looking at the rest of the world, and when you're trying to build evidence, because your journey is your journey and it's not their journey, when you're trying to build evidence and that evidence leads to confidence, what will happen is you will discredit or discount yourself. You'll say, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing well, because you'll compare yourself to the rest of the world. And this is the step where most people get emotionally hurt. People take their results and attach it to their identity. We need to stop that. No more attaching it to who you are. This is a result. This is not your identity. It's not who you are. I want to make that very clear. So we're going to remove this. So we have 4 quadrants of feedback. We have positive specific, negative specific, negative vague, or positive vague. Let's look at positive specific. So positive specific. On my podcast, I've received, your process focus episode helped me reset fast. I used it the next day. That's very positive, very specific. It's very useful. Then when we look at specific negative, good message, but too repetitive. Audio outside was rough. So people are going to take this and attach it to their self-esteem, attach it to their identity. Wrong. The worst thing you can do. You need to look at this as just neutral feedback. Okay, what do I actually have to act on? Like, what do I have to act on here? It was too repetitive. Act on that. It was the audio. Okay, we're going to make sure that our audio settings are just right. Act on that. You don't take this and attach it to your self-esteem and beat the hell out of yourself emotionally. That's not how you practice. You take specific negative feedback, you act on what's there, you ignore the rest, okay? Because you're going to get curse words, negative statements, all kinds of stuff. Act on what actually can be done. That's it. Negative vague is the worst kind of feedback because it doesn't mean anything. It's not going to help you. Okay, not feeling it lately, something feels off. I can say, can you be more specific? And if they refuse to, send them on their merry way. It's really simple. Because not everybody's going to be able to help you in that way. Some people just can't even articulate. They'll just be in a bad mood, pissed off that day, and they'll just say, I'm not feeling it. That's just the way it goes. So you got to keep that in mind with the positive vague. The positive specific, this is also not very useful. Love the podcast. Keep going. It's great. You're excited now. You got a milestone. Awesome. You could get excited about that, but there's nothing there that actions you. That's the thing. It's great, but it's not actioning. Let's go on to the next and last step. Whole thing, a whole entire thing with the deliberate practice cycle. You choose a skill, you define it, get very clear on it, decide it. Define the expert performance. What are the attributes? Not the podcaster, not the personality, not the number of podcasts that are out there. Get granular, get specific. What is the actual performance? What does the performance look like? How does it look? Identify the areas of opportunity / weaknesses. Okay. Don't be harsh with yourself at this point in time. You are growing, shaping, and changing. Prioritize the most important weakness. Okay. The one that impacts the show. High, medium, low impact. Design a drill for 1 minute, 30 seconds, whatever the case would be. Practice it. Beat on your craft over and over again. Gather the feedback. Understand the 4 quadrants of feedback. Some people are going to be mean. Some people are going to be useful. You're going to get a mixed bag. Make adjustments as you go. Start adjusting. You're not trying to be perfect the first time. You're trying to adjust as you go. So be authentic and allow yourself to take what's coming at you and collect evidence of that improvement. Most important, to build your identity strong as a human being, collect evidence and don't compare that evidence to the rest of the world. Avoid comparing your evidence to the rest of the world. Okay? Their journey is not your journey. Your journey is not their journey. You have to start somewhere. Start somewhere. Be gentle, be kind, be compassionate with yourself, and repeat the cycle all over again. So don't forget, this is the last part right here. Like, subscribe, share this with someone who actually needs it. Feel free to comment below. Okay, and have a great day. I'll see you on the next episode. Don't forget to check out Podbean and visit all the episodes there, the audio episodes there. You can get me on audio and download the Roku app, Voices of Victory channel, and you could actually listen to me right through your living room. Take care and see you on the next one.